How are we doing, Bulls Nation? It has been a while since I've done a hot takes video. I used to do these every Wednesday, but life has taken a hold of me and haven't been able to keep up with these for a while. I've also started allocating some of my time to growing the second channel, and One Hoops, which, by the way, feel free to check it out if you haven't already. We're nearing 9,000 subscribers over there. A link to that can be found in the description. But with the Bulls in Paris and only having one game over the span of 8 days, I thought what better time than to get some of this content back again, because it is a lot of fun including you guys in the content. So if you're new to the channel, feel free to leave any hot takes you have in the comments below, and I'll do my best to include them in future hot takes videos. Also, a big shout out to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video, but more on that in a little bit. But with that said, let's get into some of these takes, shall we? So what's going on, everyone? You're listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Our first take comes to us from Giovanni LeBoy. I think Vucevic is arguably a top 5 center if used correctly. If you get rid of him, who else do you think would be a good replacement for him? I mean, top 5 is a stretch, and this is coming from a biased fan of Vucevic's game, and I'm generally a Vucevic defender, but he's not a top 5 center in the league. I know you said when he's used correctly, but even when used correctly, I don't think I would put him that high when you already have Jokic and Embiid as the 2 best centers in the game. I do think he's a top 10 center in the league for sure. Like, when you actually look at what Vucevic has been able to do this season, despite having some lackluster performances, he's had a very efficient year, shooting the ball well from deep, much better than he did last season, still rebounding at an elite level, one of the best in the league, and as you said, when he's being used correctly, getting more touches and looks in the paint, his offense is significantly better. As far as who would be the one to replace him, at least realistic replacements who have been players rumored in trades, I think the most likely candidates who can at least replace some of what Vucevic or even excel in other aspects that Vucevic doesn't, those types of players are Miles Turner and DeAndre Ayton, but I highly doubt the Bulls would pull the trigger on bringing in either of those guys. Next, we've got Spencer Reinke. Given enough of a runway to ramp up, Pat could statistically make up for losing a star as soon as this year. Yeah, I don't see that happening, so if I'm following correctly, you're saying if the Bulls lose DeRozan or Lavine or even Vucevic by way of a trade, Pat can make up the difference for what those guys would otherwise bring statistically speaking? No, I mean, I like Pat and I still believe in the potential of him being a great player one day, but he's just not there yet. And I don't see that aggression or killer instinct that would all of a sudden make me think that he's someone that's going to turn things around this season. He's averaging 10 points per game and 4 rebounds. That's a lot of headway statistically that he would need to make up if you lose a star player on the Bulls. Next, we've got Dan Franco. Keep the team as is and make a move for Jared Vanderbilt. The team is stepping up shooting from the perimeter and see a lack of rotation on the 4 is our biggest weakness. Vanderbilt is the best prospect in my opinion. So I like Jared Vanderbilt a lot. I think he would be a great fit on the Bulls, especially for the reasons you mentioned and giving us some size and depth of the 4. And he's young, only 23, with upside potential. The problem is, I don't see the Jazz giving up on him that easy, especially since he fits the mold and timeline for what they're trying to build. So I don't really see the Bulls having the assets to do that type of trade to where it wouldn't be an overpay. Could a deal of Coby White for Jared Vanderbilt straight up get it done? Probably not, considering the Jazz are already in the backcourt with similar type players. Would the Portland first round pick get it done? Maybe, but then it's like, are you really going to trade a first round pick for Jared Vanderbilt? Probably too much at that point. But as far as your first statement in keeping the team as is, I mean, as much as I'd like to be hopeful, and I don't think, you need to blow it up, you can't just keep this team as is currently constructed. It's simply not going to work, both for now and for the future. Before I get into the next take, you're going to want to hear this great offer from our friends at Underdog Fantasy. Now, guys, I know I keep saying this, but Underdog Fantasy truly is the easiest fantasy sports app to use and navigate, as I've worked with a lot of similar apps in the past, and my personal favorite that I use to play on this app is NBA Pick'ems. Underdog Fantasy has higher or lowers on most player stats. Just pick higher on whether you think Zach or DeMar are going to score more than 25 points in tomorrow's game against the Pistons, and you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night if you do 5 pick'ems and get them all right. And guys, they're offering viewers of this channel an exclusive offer. If you use the code BULLCENTRAL, you'll get your first deposit doubled up to $100. Who doesn't want free money, right? You can also follow along with my picks once you sign up, and we can even have some friendly competition. I'll leave a link to the site and the code in the description if you're interested, and let me know what picks you guys make. But anyway, with that being said, let's get back into some of these takes. Next up, we've got Risotto Nero. We will be a top 4 or 5 team in the East once everyone is healthy again, including Lonzo. No, my man. Like, as much as I would love to see it happen, it's not going to, and I'll tell you why. First of all, highly doubt Lonzo Ball is coming back this season. I made a whole video on that yesterday and talking about the recent reports on his status and how he's still experiencing discomfort in that knee. I would be shocked if he came back this season, given we're already more than halfway through the year and it's not really looking good at this point for him to make a return at all. The second thing is the Bulls are too deep in the standings. They've already lost too many games. Now, I'm not saying that they could make some headwinds and move up in the standings to say the 7 or 6 seed, but even if the Bulls go on some insane run to finish out the season, let's say they finish their last 38 games or so, which isn't going to happen, but let's say they finish it 30-8. For argument's sake, they would finish the season with 50 wins, 50-32, which is incredible. But teams like the Celtics, Bucks, Nets, Sixers, even the Cavs are all on pace to finish above 50 wins. You have to assume the Bulls are going to win a lot of games to finish out the year and have the top teams lose a good chunk of their games. It's not really me being pessimistic, just the math doesn't add up based on where they currently sit in the standings. Next, we've got TJ Views. The Reinsdorfs will sell the team off soon and we'll get an owner who wants to help this team out even further. Don't see it happening. Would love for it to happen because I think we can all agree that as long as those guys own the team, this team is not going to win a championship, or at least it's slim to none when you have cheap owners like the Reinsdorfs who are still riding on the coattails and profits for what Michael Jordan built for them as their global brand. Like, they have no reason to sell with how much money and revenue this team generates, even when they're not even that good. Just don't see it happening. Next, we've got Doug LOL19. Bulls trade for Jordan Clarkson and also trade for Chris Boucher. Clarkson I don't see happening at this point, although he was a guy I was hoping the Bulls would trade for during the offseason. Part of it is because Clarkson is looking for a big contract extension that I don't think he'll be worth, and two, the Jazz are going to want too big of a package for Clarkson, especially considering the type of returns that they got for Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. And at that point, I don't think it's worth it for Clarkson, especially if he's going to demand too much money in free agency anyway, which he could become a free agent this offseason if he declines his player option. Chris Boucher, though, I really like Boucher, and I was hoping he would be one of the guys the Bulls snatched up as a free agent this past offseason, but then, of course, he re-signed with the Raptors on a pretty sizable deal. He's a player I could see the Bulls pursuing if the Raptors are looking to make big changes. A versatile big who can defend, rebound, finish at the rim, and unlike some of these other trade candidates that we talk about, including Clarkson, he's not up for a contract extension and would be on an expiring deal that you would have to worry about paying or losing him for nothing in free agency. No, he's locked in for the next 3 years. He is 30 years old now, though, so not ideal, but I guess it does fit the Bulls' timeline. Next, we've got Juke. Bulls trade Bojan Bogdanovic with a package including Patrick Williams. Well, as much as I would love to see Bogdanovic in a Bulls uniform, and I actually wanted him before he was even traded to the Pistons for basically nothing, I doubt the Bulls are going to give up a package that would include Patrick Williams for a guy like Bogdanovic, who is 33 years old. Trading Bogdanovic is tricky too because he's making nearly $20 million, and you have to find the salaries to match that type of deal, which unless if the Bulls want to include a lot of players or say Vucevic, it's going to be pretty hard to make a deal work to where it wouldn't be an overpay made by the Bulls. But he would be that perfect shooter the Bulls need on their roster right now, and a shooting big that would give them size as well, although Bogdanovic doesn't really help out on the defensive end all that much, which the Bulls need too. Anyway, I'm going to end it there for this edition of your Bulls Hot Takes. Feel free to keep the takes coming for future videos. Don't forget, the Bulls are taking on the Pistons tomorrow in Paris, so it's an earlier game starting at 2 p.m. Central. I will have a live game chat for the game, although my post-game video may not come out until after I finish work. Yes, I do have a day job for those wondering. Anyway, guys, be sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.